Hey man, my name is Danny. I've been a men's dating and relationship coach for about 6 years now, but really my journey began about 2 decades ago when I was in my early teens and I wanted to improve my ability to attract more women, to attract more attractive women. And like a lot of us, that led me to hopping online and scrounging around for answers. So I thought I'd kick off this channel by giving you a little bit of my backstory so you know who I am, where I'm coming from, why I'm here, why I'm doing all of this, why I've started the channel, and ultimately what you can expect to get out of it. So if all of that sounds good to you, then let's dive in. So when I was in my early teens and learning all of this stuff, I remember feeling pretty cringy and slimy because I didn't actually resonate with a lot of the stuff that I was consuming. I was reading blogs, I was reading books, I was, watching videos, I was buying courses that were teaching me how to improve my texting game and how to, improve my cold approaching. And I always just kind of felt this like something that was off, right? Like I just intuitively knew that there was this was not really like the heart of it, that it was kind of manipulative, that it felt inauthentic, that it felt performative, and that the guys that were teaching this stuff to me didn't feel like they were of the utmost integrity, right? And aligned with my own values. But because there was really nobody else to learn from at the time, even today, there's few dating coaches that I personally would like to learn from. I just was sort of forced to consume whatever I could get my hands on, like a lot of us. And so as I was doing that, as I was consuming the stuff, I was trying to do my best to filter the signal from the noise, but it was really hard because I lacked the experience, right? And so ultimately I adopted a lot of beliefs and mindsets and behaviors and habits that didn't really serve me in the long run, but I didn't realize that until later, right? Until the damage had already kind of been done. And so one of the first reasons why I'm starting this channel is exactly for that reason. It's to help you be able to filter the signal from the noise and understand if you choose, for example, to adopt a certain dating technique or pickup technique or whatever, that you understand why it works and like you can consciously choose it, right? And you understand the principle behind the technique that allows the technique to work. And when you understand the principle behind something, you can more authentically embrace it, or you can create your own technique that is derived from the principle and one that actually feels authentic to you. So that's one of the first reasons why I'm starting this channel. But before telling you the other reasons, let me continue with my story because, I basically did this for almost 10 years, right? Like where I learned all of this stuff, the pickup stuff and the dating stuff. And in the short run, it actually worked, right? And what I mean that it worked is that I actually was attracting more women. I was attracting more attractive women and I was feeling more confident in myself. And so I was like, oh, that's cool, right? Like this is working. I'm doing it. I'm improving myself. However, there were two main issues that didn't really become clear to me until later. So the first issue was that even in the interactions that I was having with women, I wasn't actually present, right? I wasn't actually at ease within my own body. I didn't actually feel just like comfortable in my own skin. And I wasn't actually connecting with the human being on the other side of the table with me. Instead, I was in my mind running a script, running game, right? Thinking 10 moves ahead and how to get her from point A to point B to point C to point D, ultimately to her bed, ultimately to sleep with her, because that was the outcome I was like solely focused on. And I didn't realize this at the time, but the reason I was solely focused on it was because it was a huge hit of dopamine, but really it was a huge hit of validation, the kind of validation that I wasn't actually giving myself, right? So that was the first issue, was that despite being effective at attracting women, I didn't have the ease or sense of security within myself that I thought I was going to get, right? In fact, I was pretty anxious, just doing a really good job of hiding it. And connected to this point, the second point of why, like the downsides and the damage that all of this adopting these like behaviors and mindsets of the pickup and dating industry did to me was, I don't want to say did to me as if it was like I'm a victim. I did to myself by adopting it, was that ultimately, even when I did attract the right kinds of women, I wasn't able to make those relationships work, right? And I remember two instances of this. So the first dream partner, right? Dream partner in quotations that I attracted at the time that I thought was my dream partner, right? It was this really beautiful woman that I just remember like being head over heels for. And so as I actually like wanted to make that relationship work, I started becoming really anxious, really needy, really clingy, and like ultimately pushing her away and sabotaging the whole thing. And I was heartbroken when that relationship ended, even though we only had dated for like a couple months, right? I'd gotten so attached. And so what I learned from that was that, that relationship, it exposed the deep insecurity and neediness and anxiety that was already within me, but that I was doing a really good job of masking, right? And this is the trap that a lot of dating coaches and pickup artists fall into, is that like in the dating sphere, you can kind of get away with being needy and with being like insecure. Like you can get away with it if like when things start to get real, you just jump to a different partner, right? To jump to a different woman. And you never actually go deep, right? You're just swimming in the shallow ends of the ocean, so to speak, without actually going and risking it for the biscuit. But the second that you do try to actually make a relationship work, it will expose you, right? Even dating exposes you, but it's just easier to kind of like worm your way around doing the work and around facing the inner stuff like I did. I did that for years, right? And that's why I was rebounding from woman to woman to woman, because I didn't want to sit in the discomfort after a heartbreak to actually go in there and be like, what's going on, right? Like, why don't I actually feel good within myself? Like, where did that neediness come from? I didn't want to sit with those questions, right? I was like, oh, I'm not needy, like, right? And just be mysterious, be calm, wait a certain amount of time before texting her back and all this stuff. It's like, sure, that stuff is great, but like those are just the behaviors. The fundamental inner identity was one of still neediness, right? I just wasn't accepting it. So that was the first dream partner. The second dream partner, though, she was this really beautiful stripper, and I remember like I thought I had reached like the pinnacle of what I was going for. I was like this trophy wife, and I was just getting off on all the validation that I was receiving from her and from other guys that were giving me like respect nods and stuff. And so I felt more like I deserved her, unlike the first woman that I was with, because in that relationship, I remember like the reason I got anxious and needy and pushed her away was ultimately because I fundamentally didn't feel like I deserved her, right? And all of that was coming from the insecurity. With the second dream partner, I felt a little more like I deserved her, but I just didn't have the chops to actually make the relationship work, because I had spent all my time learning like dating and pickup stuff. I hadn't really spent a lot of time learning about like communication, setting boundaries, right? And like, and attachment styles and coping mechanisms and all these things that are actually really important to making a relationship work. And so ultimately that relationship, there was fighting, arguing, lying, there was jealousy, there was just drama and chaos, and it ultimately blew up in my face, right? And I remember like after that relationship ended, I was lying in my bed, like looking up at the ceiling, tears just streaming down my face. And I just remember thinking like how the fuck am I still here, right? Like, what am I doing wrong, right? Like, how is it that after a decade of studying all this stuff, learning about female psychology and attraction and all this stuff, like I still can't make a relationship work and I still don't feel good about myself? And that's where I was like really forced to look inward. And I remember having this aha moment of, oh, like I am the common denominator in all of my relationships, right? Like I'm the one who attracted these women and chose them. And so if I'm attracting women that are bringing chaos and drama into my life, like what does that say about me, right? Like what is it within myself that's unresolved that is choosing these women and allowing these women into my life? And secondly, like even if I did attract the right woman, like what is it about me that I haven't resolved yet that is not allowing me to show up in these relationships in the way that I would ideally like to, the way that I know I can, in that like the man that I want to be, to actually guide and lead and steward these relationships to fulfillment, right? So no matter how I sliced it, I knew that it had to do with me. The issue was in here, and I had to start looking in here. instead of pointing my fingers outwards or focusing on all these external things of what to like add onto my game or whatever to be more effective. And that's when I started actually going in and learning about attachment theory and boundaries and communication and all these other things, right? And then like the next partner that I attracted from that space was one in which was like, I just remember feeling so much ease, so much peace. It was just so good, like such good communication and compassion and respect, like mutual respect. Oh, it was just amazing. And I remember thinking like, I was like mind blown. I couldn't believe that this existed because I'd never experienced it, right? And that was a turning point. Like I never went back after that. That became the new baseline and a new standard for me for the kinds of relationships that I wanted to be in. And so that's when I started, coaching, because I realized I was like, okay, I actually made this shift within myself and I can help others, right? I can spot the patterns that I myself ran into and was stuck in and fell victim to like over and over and over again. And I can start pointing that out and shedding some light for others, right? And ultimately, that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm doing this work, right? So I said to help you filter the signal from the noise. Yes, that's true. But also deeper to like, to focus and to guide us and to point to the most important thing here from my perspective, right? And there's a book that I read called The One Thing. And in this book, there was a quote that the author said over and over again that was something to the effect of, what's the one thing such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary? And the one thing, from my perspective, in the world of dating and relationships, is the relationship you have with yourself, the quality of the relationship you have with yourself. That will determine and will be like a reciprocal result of the quality of the relationships that you have with others and the ones that you allow into your life and the ones that you choose. And so when I look out into the dating world and I see the coaches, the pickup artists and all of this stuff, right? And the advice that's sort of being ricocheting through social media these days, I find that a lot of it is focused on things that are downstream from this one thing, on factors that, although they can help, aren't really at the heart of it. They're not getting to the root of it, right? And are just delaying the actual real work. They're ways of avoiding, right? They're crutches. They're ways of bypassing the actual work. And so I want to point us to what the actual work is. And it all starts with this relationship with yourself and creating this foundation of self-acceptance and of deep self-trust. And all of those two things together, along with other really important things, create your internal sense of security, right? And my definition of inner security is really, it's like unconditional confidence, right? I don't even like using the word confidence because most of the way that people use confidence, it's a conditional thing, right? It's dependent on your level of competence, or it's context dependent. Like I did, I felt confident in attracting women, but I was still deeply insecure, right? So how's that possible? Well, it's because what I'm talking about is a deep, intrinsic, unconditional form of confidence, of self-assuredness. That's inner security, right? And all that comes from your level of self-acceptance and self-trust, which is the scaffolding, right? The foundation to then build upon. Because anything that's built on, whatever you build on anything else other than that, other than self-acceptance and self-trust, is just a house of cards waiting to crumble, right? And in fact, anything you do from that place of wanting to improve yourself or thinking that you need to do something in order to be able to get something. So I need to improve my body, right, in order to attract the kind of dream woman that I'm wanting, or I need to improve my game, or I need to make more money, or whatever, fill in the blank for you to be able to then get the relationship. To then, what you're really saying is, I need to do something to be fundamentally deserving of love, right? But if you get it, that's not love. That's conditional love, right? Because if you had to do something for it, that means it's conditional. So all of this improvement, to self-improvement stuff, it actually very subtly, in a nuanced and slightly unconscious way, simply reinforces the underlying belief that you're not already good enough as you are. right? That you need to be fixed, that you're broken, right? And you need to do something to improve. And so that's what I want to point to, is that foundation, and help us build the foundation. Then once you get that foundation in place, I find that so many of the other things that are downstream from there just seem to take care of themselves. And if they don't, for whatever reason, then okay, then you can learn a little communication technique here in order to improve your ability to approach a woman. Then you can learn a little texting thing here and there, a texting principle that maybe makes it easier to text. Then you can improve and optimize your profile or whatever, right? To be an honest reflection of who you are. Sure, but let's not use those as crutches. Let's not use those as a way to bypass the actual work. All right. And the reason I love to focus this work and laser in on dating relationships and view all of this through the lens of dating and relationships is because dating and relationships are the ultimate training ground. They're the ultimate litmus test for us, right? They give us the opportunity to discover how secure are we really? Because anybody can be meditating on top of a mountain and be in peace and bliss. But the second you interact with another person, right, especially a romantic partner, like that'll expose all the stuff that you're not forced to face when you're just by yourself, right? And if you are by yourself right now, if you're single and you're remaining single, understand that that's okay. And that's, being independent is much better than being codependent, but it's still not, there's still one level higher, right? It's interdependence. You can graduate into that, but that requires a certain level of self-trust within yourself that you can actually choose the right partner and not lose yourself in the relationship, not sacrifice yourself and lose your sense of identity or sense of autonomy and who you fundamentally are, right? And if that's been your track record, I can understand why it would feel like independence is safer, right? But this channel is for the man that understands, or at least intuits on some level, that the reason dating and relationships are so powerful, it's not because this channel is not about trying to get you a partner for the sake of getting you a partner. It's because when you get a partner, the right partner for you and the right relationship for you, that's just the symptom. That's how you know you've done the inner work, right? That's like the outer, that's the fruit, right? It's like, but you've already fed the soil with the right nutrition. You fed the roots with the right nutrition that then led to the fruit, right? That's why I say it's a litmus test, because women in the feminine is a mirror that will hold it up to your face, whether you like it or not, and expose the areas that we still have to grow, right? That we're still being inauthentic, that we're still being insecure, that we're losing presence, that we're not being honest with ourselves or with her, right? And that's what's so beautiful about the feminine, is that it helps us grow. And that's what's so beautiful about having a solid, secure woman and partner and queen by your side that can hold that mirror to you and help you see the areas that you still have to grow. And in turn, you get to do the same for her, right? There's nothing more beautiful than that. And we get to do this work really until we die, because it's a never-ending journey. It's a never-ending evolution, right? We get to discover deeper and deeper layers of who we are, deeper layers of authenticity within ourselves, deeper levels of connection, trust, intimacy, and fulfillment and love. And that's the beauty of all of this. That's the beauty of life, right? Is that it never ends. We just keep going. We just keep getting more refined, right? So if that's what you want, a good solid woman by your side whom you can trust, and trusting yourself to guide and steward that relationship like a gardener to a rose, right? To ever deeper levels of love and fulfillment, then this channel is going to be a match for you, right? And I look forward to continuing to serve you. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions. What's led you on your journey to this point? What are the challenges that you've already overcome? And what are the challenges that you're currently facing, right? And let me know, because I'll use that as inspiration for future videos. All right. Well, I think I'm done here, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.